Let me ask this, and don't hate me for asking this, all right? But is tanking a problem? We have several teams this year that seem to be just blatantly outright tanking. So I'm going to pull this up. This is an article from Yahoo Sports. If you want to check it out, it's written by Callie Lawson Freeman. And it just talks about a potential G League becoming and the NBA using like a Premier League soccer style, but also acknowledging that the depth of talent for the G League isn't there to be able to contend with NBA teams for like sort of this rank system where if you're a bottom feeder in the NBA, if you're a team that's like tanking at the very bottom, like let's say bottom two teams would move into the G League. There's just really not enough infrastructure for that yet and depth in the G League for that to make sense. But Justin, you also, I know, watched that Adam Silver interview from today where he kind of clarified some of his comments from this article. Would you fill us in on that?
Yeah, of course. So this all comes from Adam Silver talking to the employees at the Phoenix Suns last week in wake of the Robert Sarver investigation. Now, there's some other things that came out from that, but basically he was asked some questions, and then he was asked about tanking, and here we are now. So basically, he was on an interview with Malika Andrews from NBA Today on ESPN, and he clarified some of his comments regarding tanking. And I'll just read you some direct quotes. Quote from Adam Silver: "You're dealing with a 14% chance of getting the first pick. I recognize at the end of the day, analytics are what they are. And it's not about superstition. A 14% chance is better than a 1% chance or a no percent chance. But in terms of straightforward odds, it doesn't benefit a team to be the absolute worst team in the league. And even if you're one of the poor performing teams, you're still dealing with a 14% chance of winning the lottery." And then it goes on here later in terms of relegation that you were saying, Matt, with the G League. Quote, "I can't say I was deadly serious about regulation because we don't have the same system as European soccer, and it would make no sense to send an NBA team to a G League or a G League team to the NBA," Silver said. So here's some context, and forgive me, man, if I go off here, but
No, all good.
the way the G League works, and Matt, you're indicative of this because you had season tickets to the Albuquerque Thunderbirds back in the day when it was the D League,
Right.
and I attended D League games, as an intern at the local TV station there. The way the NBA works is not the same as European soccer or even AAA baseball. It is much more of a symbiotic relationship with the G League and its teams as opposed to independent minor league teams. And just the way that the G League is structured, you would basically have to kind of start from scratch to make this work. And not only that, you would have to really have fans in those smaller cities making sure that their attendance is up to snuff to rival an NBA team, which is a hard thing to do. But I will say, I don't think that's impossible. And I would say 10 years from now, and here's the reason why. If you take a look at Overtime Elite, you take a look at a lot of prospects that are gaining a lot of traction on social media. If you even take a look at Victor Wembanyama, if the NBA was really serious about garnering the best prospects in the world and really destroying college basketball, I wouldn't say that this is impossible to do, but it would take a hell of a lot of work, and it's not possible now. I mean, there's no way. And you would have to get the owners to agree. There's just so many logistical issues that you would have to do to make this happen. I mean, we were talking about this in our group chat with our friends. The idea sounds awesome. I mean, the Lakers suck. Get rid of them. Put up a team that's great.
Can you imagine?
Right. It'll be, all hell would break loose. I mean, you talk about politics and everything like that. I mean, the Lakers going to the G League. I mean, it'd be quite worse. So I think overall, you would have to see the NBA restructure its league to pull this off, and I just don't see them doing that in this case now.
Let me ask this, and don't hate me for asking this, all right? But is tanking a problem?
I don't think It is
Is
really.
it so? Every year, media
Yeah,
makes a big deal about this.
they do.
Like, it's all over Twitter. It's, there's jokes, there's memes. That's all good fun. But do you think, like, so put yourself, let's say, I know you're a Bulls fan. Put your Pacers cap on real quick that you don't own. Hypothetical Pacers cap. You see what the Pacers are doing this year. You see we have Rick Carlisle coaching, helping in the front office, these things. Pacers fans know basketball. You know basketball, Justin. If you are a Pacers fan, or let's say it was the Bulls, but you have the Pacers roster, are you bummed out about what they're doing this year?
Well, they have a lot of young talent, and I think
Yeah,
that's the thing about the consumer, right? And we're getting into more of a marketing discussion here
right.
because I just saw a tweet recently that the Brooklyn Nets have some of the worst attendance in the league right now. So, and they have Kevin Durant and they have Kyrie Irving. So, right now, from a consumer standpoint, is what does the consumer want? And it gets weird because with the Lakers, they're terrible, but they have great attendance.
They
So
have stars.
yeah, they have stars. But
Hollywood likes stars.
even when the Lakers were terrible, I don't think their attendance was that bad to my recollection. So even Madison Square Garden, I mean, how many Knicks experts have you had on the show? And
Right.
how many times have they talked about the fans are enabling this team to invest in bad habits over the years because the Knicks fans are so loyal. They have so much hope. They're going to pack it out every night just to see whoever's coming to the Garden. It's just the magic of Madison Square Garden. So I think it just depends on the arena. So
Well, and LA and New York, sorry to cut you off,
no,
have a lot of travel coming too.
they
Like
do.
those aren't all New Yorkers or
No,
LA
of
natives. A lot
course.
of people, they're in town for LA for the
Of
week and
course.
they're seeing a game.
Of course. But I think it's one of those things where we're seeing now in the league where there's so many teams that have so much great talent. It's hard to think of a team that's just completely hopeless in terms of not having an attraction to go see. I mean, you take a look at the Magic. Are the Magic going to win a ton of games? Probably not. But guess who they have? They have Paulo. I mean, you can just
And
go
he's
and watch.
worth the watch.
He's worth the ticket of admission alone. And so I think it's one of those things, especially the way that we watch the NBA is different than the way that Gen Z watches the NBA. And Mike Greenberg of ESPN always uses analogy. His son, I think, knows all the best players from NBA 2K. They're not watching the NBA as like, okay, the Sixers are the best team or whatever, or is Doc Rivers going to get fired? I mean, that's how we were watching it, but they care
Less
about
team
players.
loyalty. Right.
Yeah, they care about players. They care about who's popping right now. It's not about who's going to win the NBA Finals. So I think in terms of my point is in terms of the consumer that is fueling this league in the future. I think the tanking issue. I think we might be on the same page. We might get the same amount of heat. I think it's over.
Good.
I think it's over. I think it's overrated. I really do. I think
I'm totally with you on
I
this.
think from a consumer standpoint, when you're watching the games that are drawing on, look at the games that are on TV. Are they going to put on crap games that are on TV? No, they're putting on marquee matchups. And rarely, I can't think, and I might get corrected on this on the comments. I can't really think of a time where the NBA lays out their schedule, and then we're in April, and then we're just seeing two crap teams that they thought were going to be premier teams, in the beginning of the season. And usually, there's so much drama surrounding that team that stinks that people are usually going to watch. So the way these schedules, the way they're laid out, they're meticulously planned. From Christmas Day to Martin Luther King Day to, heading into, the end of the playoffs. And so I think the tanking issue is overrated to me. I think it's just a talking point for mainstream sports media to get up in arms. And I've never really understood it because, quite frankly, those teams suck. I mean, what else to tell you? I mean,
not everyone can win every night.
They suck going into the season. They suck, in March and April. And I think with the Bulls, for instance, my team, I think they're going to be fairly competitive. But, if DeMar DeRozan gets hurt and if Zach LaVine gets hurt, they're done. I mean, are they tanking? No, it's just they got hurt. I mean, what else? What else can you say? I mean, it's just unfortunate circumstance. So that's not a conspiracy for the Chicago Bulls to get the first pick because if DeMar DeRozan tears his ACL, he's out for the rest of the season. So right. I mean, these are the circumstances that's happened through the case of sports. So I agree with you, Matt. I think the whole tanking thing's overblown, but I do like the competitive nature of having your teams that normally would be out of it have a shot. That is compelling to me to watch, in the last month of the season or so, to me, at least.
So then these comments by Adam Silver, based on what you and I agree with, this is PR. This
Correct.
is, look, the NBA is a competitive league. This is the message I'm sending out. And Justin, I had this feeling that this is a media narrative that guaranteed next year this is going to be brought back again. We'll be
Oh,
sitting
yeah.
here talking about this again.
Oh, yeah.
But with the points that you brought up and the depth of the league, I'm 100% with this even stronger, because you mentioned a great point that the league is deep. Like, I think of even the Thunder right now, who are
Agreed.
clearly front office tanking. I still would love to go see a Thunder game and watch Josh Giddey play. Now, you and I, hardcore basketball fans, so that's not going to be everyone who agrees with that particular take. Not everyone's going to want to go to a Pacers game and see Tyrese Halliburton. But I think the hardcore fans overlap in this, even if they are more like franchise based and less player based. So, kind of more an old school traditional fan. I think they're going to still see what their point guard of the future, Tyrese Halliburton, is going to be able to do. And they're going to be able to say, and they're going to enjoy being able to say, I was there when he was 21 years old or whatever, and he was coming up on this team. I've seen this story arc play out, and now we're contending for a title or whatever the case may be.
The game of basketball has changed just because now, in terms of social media, you have plenty of basketball players that have a great social media following. They're not even in the NBA. They don't play professionally, and they're watched online. So you can imagine where there's compelling players within the league that they're fun to watch as well. I mean, we're at to a point that there's different attractions throughout the league that they don't have to be on a contending team or competing for MVP or trying to win the finals or whatever. They're just fun to watch, like you said, Matt. And I think that's something where older fans don't really understand. I think the the way basketball is totally changing. I agree with you, Matt. I don't think there's just an issue of just having just a ton of stinker teams like when we were growing up. Like these,
Yep.
why are these guys in the league? I think everybody that's, puts on a uniform, this could sound corny, but everybody that puts on a uniform now, I think they are elite talents, and they're
Sure.
the top talents in the world for sure.
And it seems the players always try. I don't care what people say. Even that terrible year of the Charlotte Bobcats, if you can remember when that was a franchise, it seemed like they were trying. They were just legitimately terrible. They were front office tanking. The Jazz are 3-0, as we talked about. The Blazers are 3-0. Not the best rosters in the league, but those players are trying hard. Watching the Jazz play, they are trying
And
hard in
great
those
talent.
games.
Laurie Markkanen's on that team. I mean, he is a great talent despite it not working out in Chicago. I
This
mean, he
could be
is.
like a Danny
Uh,
Ainge thing. Like maybe the Jazz are just rubbing off. Danny Ainge trying to tank, and he gets Jason Tatum and
right.
Jalen Brown. So maybe
right.
the Jazz are getting that Ainge effect, we can call it. But
right.
um, so to sum it up, tanking, we both seem to agree. Pretty heavy media driven narrative, maybe Twitter driven narrative. Um, Seems like player tanking, not really a thing, but front office tanking, I would say, I think we agree, is a thing. Like, yes, the Jazz are set up to fail this year in terms of a front office side of things. Like, we gave you these players are going to try, but yeah, you're probably going to give us a shot at a top 2 pick uh, when all is said and done. So, any other last thoughts on that before we wrap up?
I would say, just with the parity of the league and the parity of the Eastern Conference, that is a great example of just the way it's wide open every single year in terms of every team at least having some kind of a shot. And I think that's what's maybe disappointing about a team like the Kings, where they haven't really been in the playoff mix for so long. And I think for the league itself, you wish that over a 10-year span, if you're charting a team, that you see them at least in the playoffs at least 50% of the time at either the lower seed or competing at least for the title. I think that should be the objective. And when you have a team that they're not sniffing the playoffs for a long period of time, I think that's where the disappointment comes into play as a fan base. So I think there is concern regarding that. But I think as we continue to see there's an increase in talent, I think we're going to see a flip flop in terms of those top, 8 teams every year when it's all said and done after the playing game in terms of, competitiveness.
Shoot, I mean, look at the Grizzlies last
Yeah.
year. That was like they're too young to do this.
Yeah.
Whatever. John Morant's cool, but they're
It's
too
true.
young. And then there's second seed in the West.
Yeah.
To your point.
It's true.